Hello.
Hello.
Alrighty, apologies all. Give me like do we have all of our staff that we need? Let's start there.
We do, Councilor Murillo.
Okay, and I see Councilmember Marcano, Councilmember Medina. Okay, then I think we are good to go ahead and get started. It's 10:02, so let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And let's start with the approval of the July 7th meeting minutes. Are there any changes from either of the committee members?
None for me.
Okay, so do you approve of the meeting minutes as written then?
Yes.
It's
Alrighty, I agree. Sounds good. Let's move on to the next agenda item. Are there any announcements from staff or yes, any announcements for the good of the whole?
Councilor Murillo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess this might be a good opportunity to just let staff know that the comments in WebEx are not working again for this policy committee. So we're not able to make notes in our in eScribe. Rather, sorry, not WebEx.
Thank you for noting that. Any other announcements? And let me check. See anybody raising their hands in the chat. Do you see a call-in user? Can we unmute the call-in user to see if there's any announcements or?
Hi, this is Dana Ashley Elm with the Aurora Housing Authority. I don't have any announcements. I'm just here to listen to the presentation. Thank you.
Alrighty, we thought we'd give it a shot either way, but thanks for calling in. Okay, no announcements. Let's move on to agenda item 4A through C, which are any new items. And let's get started with the Homeless Services Grant Q2 report and the point in time count update.
All right, hey all, Emma Knight here. I'll be presenting.
Emma, would you update the council and committee on your new role, please?
Oh yes, of course. I apologize. Yeah, so I have accepted the role of manager of homelessness. And I'm
Congratulations.
taking on that role. Thank you. So if we're ready, I'll just go ahead and jump right in. There we go. Is that full screen for everyone?
Yep.
All right. So update on point in time, which we completed back in January. And as a reminder, point in time is a single night in January where we mobilize a lot of volunteers and folks to go out and do a count of everyone experiencing homelessness in our region. So this year it showed an overall increase regionally of 784 individuals from pre-pandemic levels. And I'm comparing 2020 to 2022 because in 2021, we only completed a shelter count. So it would be an inaccurate comparison to compare 2022 to 2021. So as you can see, in 2020, we had 427 people, and now we are up to 612 as of January. That's a 43% increase, 185 people. And I want to note that the point in time count gives us just a snapshot of a single night, so it's not an accurate count of how many people we have on an ongoing basis. It's generally understood to be undercounted by up to half of the amount of people that we actually have experiencing homelessness. And that's undercount for many reasons. One of them being folks who are staying in temporary housing situations aren't considered literally homeless, but are generally or oftentimes homeless or about to be homeless. So that can really increase the population dramatically. Also, folks in incarceration, if they're there for more than, I believe, 90 days, they're not counted, even though when they are released from incarceration, they are often sent into homelessness and don't have a place to go. So those are just a couple of reasons why that's often an undercount. And it changes throughout the year how many folks we have based on seasons and whatnot. So that's just my quick update on point in time. So if you have any questions on that, now's a good time because I'm going to go on to our Q2 reports for our homeless grants. So any questions on that while I'm here?
Councilmember Medina, Marcano.
I guess if you had to estimate, Emma, because we know that point in time counts are often undercounts, or not necessarily the best metric to do this. Do you have a good estimate for what our actual population might look like in Aurora?
The spitball, I'd say probably, at least 700, and that's just a guess. We don't have the updated count of the difference between sheltered and unsheltered yet. This was just the preliminary number they gave us so that we have numbers to apply for grants, but they haven't given us the final count. I don't expect it to change much from the official count that we have right now, but that's just a guess. You see how many folks we have out on the streets on a daily basis, and so many folks are really good at hiding. It's just hard to tell.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Medina, did you have any questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, I actually did have a follow-up. I recall us having a conversation about maybe replicating the point in time during the summer months. Like, does that sound familiar to the team? I thought we talked about maybe, were we planning on doing like a second one? I couldn't recall if it was because, well, I think the premise was just that it's one night, right? And it's so early in the year that it's like really cold, but clearly there was no shortage of people, but I'm wondering if that was in the works or if we ever, I guess, formally decided on that moving forward.
Good question. I don't think it was ever formally decided that we were going to do it. It had been talked about. I do remember that conversation. Oops, sorry, I just made that bigger. We did have that conversation though. We've been understaffed a bit for a while now, and the point in time takes really a lot of person power to undergo. So I would say if we were gonna do one next year, might be a better chance or a better time, and we could really take the time to plan that out. So if that's something you'd like us to do next year, we could start planning. We should have more staffing by next year as well. We're with the camping ordinance, we've had an increased budget to add a few more people, which will help a lot.
Councilmember Murillo, I would just add it's also come up through the Aurora at Home strategic plan, and it would really have to be somewhat of a regional approach to do that, with our service providers and counties bought in. There have been other areas that have done a summer count. I know Jefferson County did a few years ago, and somebody was doing one this summer. And so we wanted to do some kind of lessons learned from that to see if you're really getting a much larger number. It often feels like there's more folks in the summertime. Sometimes they're just more visible. But that's definitely something that's within the strategic plan, and also just better ways of accumulating data. And that's what Emma will go into next, is just the number of people being served, which sometimes gives us even a more accurate count than just looking at literal unsheltered folks in the community.
Gotcha. So I guess just for the meeting minutes purposes, just like an official request, if my colleagues would support that, just to see if that's feasible, reasonable, right? If it makes sense, um, for probably it sounds like the next year with staffing and just timing. Like I wouldn't want to rush it just to do it in this year, but I also don't know who's going to be on the committee next year. But if it makes sense, I would support that direction. Councilmember Marcano, Medina, what are your thoughts on the matter?
I would agree. I think it'll help us gather a slightly better snapshot than we currently have in terms of what's going on. So
I would agree as well.
Okay, awesome. All right, Emma, you can go ahead and keep going with the presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we're going to talk about our homeless services grants for this year, and these are the funding streams we have: marijuana, public safety, ESG, and home TBRA. So in here are the folks that we funded for this year. And Mile High Behavioral Healthcare has several grants with us this year, as is Salvation Army. Who else? Aurora Housing Authority as well. So there are, several on here that have several grants from us this year in different streams. And current services that are provided through these grants, as you know, the Day Resource Center, our safe outdoor spaces, shelters, and that's regular and domestic violence, street outreach, all of these on here. And these are provided by our partner organizations. None of these are provided through the city itself, just for clarity. So I'm giving you a Q2 report because Q1 was our first time with all of these agencies being required to use HMIS, which is the Homeless Management Information System. And a lot of our agencies who hadn't used them before, it just takes a while to get into HMIS and get it set up. So Q1 didn't have very accurate reporting because of that, which is why I'm giving you Q2 instead. And 10 out of the 12 grant recipients were required to report into HMIS. Gateway and Sungate Kids were not required to. Gateway because it's domestic violence and they're not legally allowed to report into HMIS, so they use a different reporting metric. And then they report to us through Neighborly. And then Sungate Kids also reports to us through Neighborly because they are a public safety grant. So we had, with this report, 1,307 individuals served, 115 households with veterans, and you'll notice that number if you've seen our by name list for veterans. It's much larger than our by name list, and that's because this includes Colorado Coalition's Fitzsimmons building for veterans permanent supportive housing. So that's why we have a higher number of veterans in here than is on our by name list. We had 510 households reported someone within their household with a disability, 25 individuals in housing searches. My guess is that's underreported. We have some new metrics that folks are reporting on, and I think it's taking them some time to report accurately and kind of figure out how that works into their programs. So some of these may be undercounted, and I do think that's one of them. And I say that because I also run the Flexible Housing Fund, and we get a lot of folks submitting Flex Fund applications for housing on a regular basis through a lot of our organizations that are reporting here. So these are conversations I'll be having with our service organizations to make sure they understand the reporting requirements, and I can give them any support around that. But as you can see, 66 households received housing case management, and 47 referrals made to employment programs, such as Ready to Work or BAYOD, which are two of the programs we worked with. So here's just a quick pie chart of what we got reported as clients served by race, so that's a pretty good number. And as we all know, people who are Black or African American or African are generally a higher population of people experiencing homelessness or housing instability, even though they are a smaller percentage of our population. So this is a really real number. You can see where it shows that. And then clients served by ethnicity. Just thought that might be interesting to have on there. I think that might be, yeah, that was my last slide on pie charts. So I had in the backup all of the actual metrics that we had up in there. So if you have any questions specifically from the report that we had out, I just pulled a few of the numbers to put on here, but I'm always happy to talk through any of the metrics we have on there. Any questions, or would you like me to go back to any other slides?
I'm good.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing then.
One question I would have for council, this is really just meant to be informational only, but if you all think it would be helpful to bring to your colleagues, I think we would ask for direction on bringing this to study session as an informational only item.
I think there's value to ensuring all of council knows where we're at, so I would support that.
Yep, I'm fine with that as well.
Same. I think I'm always a fan of like, you know, like especially when we're talking about how us council members like can utilize and like direct folks to people, like obviously we will submit a council request or we'll email one of y'all on the team. But I guess is there like a quick way to kind of overview the types of support that we offer folks? I think like eviction prevention, I think there's a is it accurate that like you have to have received an eviction notice to receive that particular help? I guess just like a snapshot of like how we can navigate, you know, or what if we had to remember anything from the presentation about referring folks to y'all about the type of support we offer. I guess just like a quick rundown on that. But otherwise, I agree that that would be helpful. So I think that all three of us agree on that.
Okay, so for the next presentation for study session, you'd like me to include a slide about how to refer folks to us or to service providers in general?
Yeah, like what's the best process? I guess that can literally just be send us a council request or in an emergency contact these, you know, this is the person, right? Off hours, this is who you refer people to. Otherwise, normal council process, and then just any high level, like one sentence about what each pot of money can fund, like for like the eviction prevention, like if there's any stipulations, just reiterating that, because I think often we're like, oh, we do have housing assistance, and it's like very generic, which still likely will happen, but just for our purposes, like, you know, if we know that that's just not something that the city has capacity to support, we would refer them elsewhere kind of thing. So yeah, just really quick, it doesn't need to be more than a few minutes, just I think a refresher if we're, you know, not everyone's on this committee, not everyone has housing issues as salient in their district, so I think it'll just be helpful.
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
Councilor Murillo?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. And just if staff could refresh our memory, I believe you put in an amendment to the camping ban ordinance for us to get reports back on, you know, all the metrics. What was the frequency in there? Do you recall?
Yeah, I think that was an annual update. I actually just spoke with Jessica and team and yesterday to talk about future committee items. I think it might likely evolve into like a monthly update of progress of where we're at. But the formal, the way it's written in the ordinance is an annual update, but that doesn't mean we're not able to get kind of more recent updates on that progress.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, otherwise I think we can keep moving forward. Are we, yeah, Emma, you still have more to present, right? No?
No, that was my presentation.
Oh, okay, sorry. Just kind of flew by. That went faster than anticipated. All right, then I think it sounds like you have the go ahead to bring to study session, and that generally is just information only anyways. So the next agenda item is the I think it's called Keeping of Domesticated Ducks, and I think that's Augusta that's going to be doing the presentation. So when you're ready, go ahead.
Good morning. So there was discussion about keeping ducks as pets here in the city, and this is the continuation of that discussion. Let's see if it should go to city or to study session. So what we looked at was amending the current city code ordinance for chickens and just adding in ducks to that. Angela Garcia, who is here, also assisted in the writing of that, city attorney. So they're social animals. In their best interest, keeping minimum of 2 ducks is better because one will not do well on its own. It would still limit the total amount of birds per property to the current maximum. So it would basically replace chickens that were in their flock with ducks. That way, not ending up with huge flocks of birds in the backyard. It become part of the same permitting process that's already in place, so it wouldn't be a lot of additional work to that. So on lots less than 20,000 square feet, there's already a maximum of 6 birds total. So it would replace 2 of those birds. They could replace 2 of those birds with ducks, or all of them with ducks, but no chickens. And then on lots that were bigger than 20,000, the limit would still be 8 total birds allowed. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, seems a little complicated when you say it all like that, but so that's the extent of it. We were looking at study session next if everybody's agreeable to this. That is it. If nobody has questions.
Thank you for the presentation, Augusta. Councilmember Marcano, did you have any questions, comments, thoughts?
No questions, just thank you for the presentation, Augusta, and I support this moving forward, and I suspect our constituents who've requested for this will also support it moving forward, so thank you.
Councilmember Medina?
I'm all good. Let's move it forward.
Same here. I am curious if anybody on council will be owning a duck. No, 2, at least a minimum of 2
At least
ducks.
2.
Minimum of 2.
Yes. If I had a yard, I would totally consider it, but
Yeah.
that is not the case. So I think we're good to move it forward. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great day.
Alrighty. Okay, we are flying by the agenda. All right, next agenda item is the community investment funding recommendations for this year for the summer rounds, and I believe Alicia is the staff presenter on this item. And if you're
Alicia, we
speaking,
can't hear you.
there we go.
Thank you. All right, I am going to share my screen. Let me bring this in my presentation.
Alicia, you're still a little bit quiet. If you can speak up or lean in or something.
Let me turn on my volume. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, a little bit.
Let me try one more thing. Sorry.
Oh, okay, sorry, it just got worse again, sorry.
No, you're good. Is that a little better?
Yes,
Okay, awesome. Thanks, everyone. Good morning, council members. So today I'm going to be presenting on our summer 2022 community development investment round, or the gap financing that we provide to our development community to promote the creation of affordable housing units in the city. As you are aware of, our purpose, or the purpose of the community investment financing applications, is to provide resources to developers so that they can help us preserve the affordable housing units that we have in the city and create new affordable housing units. This is in support of the goals in the housing strategy, which are guided by 6 housing policies. And those are to foster a balanced and sustainable housing portfolio, strengthen the city's capacity for addressing housing issues, strengthen the local economy, and expand employment opportunities in the city of Aurora, preserve the long-time affordability of existing housing stock, expand the inventory of housing options throughout Aurora, and support protections for homeowners and renters. During our application, the components of the application are, of course, the alignment with our housing strategy, make sure that the project meets an identified housing need in the community, that we are serving the demographics that need the housing the most, in keeping in mind diversity, equity, and inclusion. AMI, or average median income, is a strong component of the applications. We also look at cost effectiveness, and we determine whether they are leveraging other funds, review of sources and uses, and funding sustainability. And last, not least, and not the only 6 either, but we also make sure that the applications are available or have available city funding sources based on project type, developer, or organization experience, as well as their experience in the city of Aurora. Just to give you a little bit of an idea on timeline, this process started mid-June, and the process included everything from looking at the application, making sure all of the components that we wanted to make sure that are on the application were included. Making those updates in communicating to the newspaper, updating our website, and just making sure that we're getting the word out and are ready to go for the application to go live. And so our application went live on June 23rd, and it closed on July 8th. Then we had a review committee, and I'll explain who was in that committee, but we had a review committee who reviewed all of the applications, make sure that the components were met according to the 6 requirements that I explained above. And so we did the review process from July 11th to the 13th, and issued pre-award letters on July 29th. The pre-award letters were conditional on city council approval. So that is what I am seeking today. It would be to move this item to study session once I'm done with the presentation. The review committee was conformed by members from planning, finance, of course, our teams of community development, and then we also have representatives from our Citizens Advisory Committee. We have 2 individuals from the committee who support these recommendations as well. We had a total of 3.3 million on this round. This is our smaller round. The first one is the one that had the private activity bond. So we don't have as much financing or gap financing available for the development community, but we did offer 3.3 million. And we received a total of 6 applications, and the total requested amount was 7.65 million. As we were reviewing the applications, we did it through a scoring system. The maximum score that they could get was 60. And the scoring, again, was based on the number of people that were being served, how many units were being created, whether the project was offering or is offering a transit-oriented option, or is in a transit-oriented area. We looked at their experience in the city of Aurora, other areas or other cities similar to the city of Aurora or bigger, just to bring that experience and expertise into the picture. This is the list of the projects that we received applications from. So Peoria Crossing, Elevate Aurora, Kings Crossing, Jewel Apartments, the reserves at Eagle Point, and our Doors to Opportunity by Elevations. The total number of units that we are supporting are 488. The funding that was requested was a total of 3.1 million for ARPA funding and 4.5 for home funds. The recommendations include 2 million for ARPA and another million for home funds. And here is an average on the scoring that we did for each of the projects. I do want to emphasize that the reserves at Eagle Point scored the lowest on both of their applications. They submitted 2 applications, and they scored the least. The main reason is because we just didn't feel that the project was ready to start construction soon. And there were just other concerns in regards to the area, in whether it was transit oriented, and there were just many questions in regards to whether it was ready or it was a project that we wanted to fund, that we were ready to fund. So we did not recommend any funding for the reserves at Eagle Point. We did strongly encourage that they apply again in the next round. So that would be the winter round, and probably won't happen until sometime in January 2023. And we're hoping that they'll be more ready to go and have more support for the project. The first project that I want to talk to you about is Peoria Crossing Phase 2. There are 72 units and the AMI is 30 to 60%. They applied for 1 million in home funds, and we granted, or we recommend that we provide 250,000 in ARPA funds and another 700,000 in home funds. The scoring was 45.33. Again, just keeping in mind that the scoring items in regards to the area median income that they are targeting, whether it's transit oriented, and all of the needs in general for the city of Aurora. The second one is Elevate Aurora by Columbia Ventures LLC. Their AMI target is a 30 to 70% community. They requested a total of $500,000 in ARPA funds, and we are recommending $250,000 in ARPA funds. The next one is the reserves at Eagle Point. Their income or AMI community target is the 70 to 80% community, and they requested $1 million in home and another million in ARPA funds. Again, this is the project that we just felt was not ready to start soon. And we also have deadlines that we have to meet when it comes to spending our money. So we just didn't want to put ourselves in a situation where we would not be able to spend funding by the deadlines. They submitted a second application, but part of the application process is that they submit one application for each funding type that they are requesting. So one application was for the home funds and the second one was for the ARPA funding. Last but not least, is Doors to Opportunity, is a type of scatter site project by Elevations Community Land Trust. The total units there are 10 units. The AMI community is 60 to 80%. This is a homeownership project, and we want to be very intentional about homeownership because of the goals in our housing strategy. So we are recommending that we give them the full ask. We are not recommending the home funding just because of the different projects that we received and what made the most sense for our department and the funding that we do have. But we are giving them, or we are recommending $500,000 in ARPA funding. And that is my last slide. So the question is, does the Homes Committee support the recommendations provided? And then I wanted to pause and see if you have any questions.
Thank you, Alicia. Councilmember Medina, do you have any questions?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Councilmember Marcano.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Murillo. So I do have a question on the reserves. Since they had 2 applications, I'm looking through it, and I see that they had 2 different score summaries. Was that just due to the target AMI? There was a difference, or what else went into the 2 different scores that they received there? Because it looks like it was the exact same parcel and everything.
Yeah, so each member of the review committee had the opportunity to score individually the applications. So because we received 2 separate applications, the scoring was probably higher by one of the review members than the other. And yeah, so that would be based on AMI, and I can tell you on this one, transportation was another big one. And then last but not least, how ready, shovel ready they were. So how ready are they to start construction? Just because we have to keep in mind the deadlines that we have to follow or abide by when it comes to spending our funding.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with those points. I was just curious as to why we had that differentiation in scoring. And I just also wanted to add, I'm very excited to see the Jewel Apartments project on the list. So thank you.
Yeah.
Also, they applied for each funding source, we scored them separately. So I think that might be why as well. So it's a separate application for each funding source.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And the criteria is a little bit different for those funding sources. So that could be the differentiation in scoring as well.
I guess, is it common to get multiple applications for the same project?
Yeah, so if they the ask through our application system is that they want to apply for more than one funding source, that they have to submit an application for each funding source separately, just because the requirements for one versus the other can be different. So yeah, they have to submit a separate application if they want more than one source.
All right, thank you.
Just to add to that, sometimes it's land acquisition, sometimes it's pre-development costs, sometimes it's actual development costs. So sometimes the funding aligns with what their needs are better than others. Some are more flexible than others. So as Alicia kind of alluded to, we're going to be looking at, can folks keep coming around and around for multiple rounds of funding? We'd really like to just fund a project once or within one round so that then we have an opportunity to fund more units. Certainly sometimes, especially in the past few years, things have increased. And so folks will come back to us and say, we need more gap financing, but we'd really like to just fund them once so we can fund the next project in the pipeline with the next round.
Thanks for that. Real quick on the elevation funding. Can you remind me if we have a City of Aurora representative on their board of directors? I remember early before they, I was working with Jason before we ever considered working with a land trust organization. We were trying to inquire more about their internal decision-making structure. I think the one thing that we flagged at that time was that we didn't necessarily have a guaranteed Aurora board member on their board, and it's been some time, so I was curious if you knew or could at least follow up at a later time if we did actually have any Aurora specific representation on their board or their and or any other decision-making body.
Yeah, I'm not aware, Jessica, if you are, please let us know, but I'm not aware. I'm happy to follow up and see what kind of Aurora representation we do have with them. I have worked with Elevations when I was working for Denver, so I am familiar with the organization and their structure. But I am not aware of anyone in the city of Aurora who is representing us there.
Yeah, if you want to mind.
Councilman Murillo.
Yeah, go ahead.
We don't have anybody on the board. I will say they have a couple investor meetings every year that we do get invited to, which sort of helps them set their vision and provide feedback. And then we also have monthly meetings with their staff as well, just on the current projects that we have going and sort of future ideas they have going. But I really like that idea to have better influence with them. So I will follow up with Stefka, the executive director, and just see what her thoughts are on that.
I mean, to be fair, it's probably an inquiry or something we want to know about all of the organizations, but I think in particular, just because Elevation was so new was new and was a statewide, like very intentionally a statewide organization, and just for our future knowledge and I think more information about kind of where we fall in their like strategic priorities and how they prioritize like Aurora specific work. I mean, I think there's been no shortage of applications from them, but not necessarily, internally that's the case, that there's like that Aurora representation. So yeah, that would be great if you could get back to me on that, or just follow up on that. Otherwise, I don't think there are any other questions. Does the committee, I believe the question is to advance this to a study session. Are you both okay with moving this forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I am as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Okay. And here we are. I think that is all of the new items. Are there any miscellaneous matters for consideration, including any updates from community members? Let's see. And we do have let's see. Yeah, any of the call-in books, any other updates that you'd like to share if you haven't already. Doesn't look like
Good, thank you. This is Dana.
Alrighty. Looks like we're good to go on the call-in line. And we're good there. Okay, and then just before we adjourn, just reconfirming our next meeting time and date, as well as the agenda items for that policy committee meeting. So, Councilmember Medina, Marcano, are you still good for September 1st at 10 a.m. for our next meeting?
I'm good.
Works for me.
Okay, and then Jessica or somebody, can y'all go through the expected agenda items for that month?
For September, Maddie, if you can help me out, I know we reviewed them yesterday. We will bring the monthly update around implementation of the camping ordinance. We have that data that will be provided. I believe we have an update from the Housing Authority, a general update, as well as just sort of what's in their pipeline when it comes to development and things like that. And Maddie, what else?
Social housing discussion.
Yeah, and so that kind of dovetails in somewhat with the housing authority as well. And so Councilmember Marcano, we can discuss timeline around that as well, but that was slated in there. And then anything else, Maddie?
The North Aurora city-owned buildings,
Yes.
and
Yep.
there's another one too. And then waste hauling update potentially.
Yeah.
Yes. It's going to be a busy meeting.
Yeah. And it's in
Yes.
just a few weeks. So we'll try to
Yep.
get all of that together. That's on the preliminary list. We'll see what actually gets into eScribe. So
Yeah. And just like a quick note for the committee members on the Northwest Aurora, like city-owned buildings, that's up name placeholder. But the intention is to, I'm sure y'all have been contacted by folks about various city-owned buildings over the over your time here. I was gonna say years, but some folks haven't been here a full year. But even outside of as a council member, and then especially in the northwest part of Aurora, we have several like city-owned buildings, several assets there. Had a conversation with our city manager about like adding some clarity of the intent of those buildings, to kind of understand how we define success, how does that fit into our larger plans, what plans I guess influence or dictate kind of the use of those buildings, and if there is a greater or more deeper way that we can partner with community in the utilization of those assets, city-owned assets. The idea of like asset-based community development, community wealth building had been brought up over the years as well. And just, I know I've received a lot of, and I've worked with our staff on those buildings, working with different nonprofits, and there's been several that have like cycled through, and I think it just makes sense to kind of reaffirm the intention and maybe have a conversation of if that's the best and most strategic use of our time and resources, or if there's a deeper way we might be able to partner with community-based organizations, given that's an asset that we own. Or maybe not, maybe it stays the same, but I think it's so I just wanted to clarify kind of the intention of that conversation, and hopefully it will be a robust conversation. I know tomorrow city staff will start like talking about what that presentation might look like, and have an opportunity to report back on the preliminary presentation. So if there's any feedback on things y'all would like to see as they craft that, I think there will be opportunity to do so. So just wanted to give y'all a flag on that. And I guess then now opening it up real quick, if there's any future agenda items that either one of you have that you'd like to see, I think the initial work plan that we developed at the beginning of the year, I think we've almost worked through all of that. So we do have a little bit more space and capacity to maybe entertain any other additional agenda items in the next couple of months before the end of the year. So do you guys have anything else you would like to talk about as we plan for the next couple of months?
Councilmember Murillo, yeah, I would like to look at maybe a way of, I don't know if it's create a resolution or ordinance or something, is that if the spaces that we do have or potentially sites that could be used for housing or other ventures, is there a way that we can, I guess, entertain community engagement from the onset as opposed to after the fact, that they go through planning and zoning and all of that, and then they're kind of called up after the fact? Because to me, it just seems backwards, is that we're not asking community first what they would like to see. This is what potentially could be there. And then we're asking for input after the fact, when we know for a fact that most of that stuff is going to get built anyway. And so I would like to see, information about that, if what you think about that.
Yeah, I think Jessica, at our next meeting, maybe we could talk about what that might look like. But yeah, as a placeholder from Councilmember Medina for a future conversation. Councilmember Marcano?
Yes, thank you, Councilor Murillo. This is something I've been doing a little bit of preliminary research on, but I think it would probably fall under the scope of Horns from the community services standpoint, and that is looking to see what we're able to do to provide affordable childcare, or to help provide affordable childcare, whether that's public-private partnerships, or potentially utilizing some city facilities to just provide, to give providers other options. Because that's one of the larger issues in our community. It's a barrier to, employment, but it's also a large economic burden on a lot of our residents. So if we can see what we're able to do, what options are available to us as a municipality to aid folks in securing affordable childcare, I'd be very happy to discuss that.
Okay, well, we'll figure out what that conversation could look like, or if that really, noted, and we'll follow up on that internally to think through if and what that looks like. Anything else?
Councilmember Murillo, just one other thing. We have another new manager in our department that's on the line this morning, and I'd love for her to introduce herself to you all. Sadia, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, hello, council members. I don't think I've met a couple of you. Love to, at some point, I think I'll come to one of your ward meetings. So my name's Sadia Roxay Foster. This is my first month here in this role as the division manager of community engagement. So I oversee our team of youth violence prevention team and our community engagement coordinators, which I think a lot of you are familiar working with. So just learning a lot, kind of, really hitting all the wards. Just went to Councilmember Medina's last night, and that was great, and it was very well attended, and then I'm trying to go to all of them so I can meet everyone and see the community. Anyways, I am really happy to be here. I'm happy to connect. And by the way, I was just going to tell you guys, I have a huge history background in affordable childcare in California, where I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. So I did a lot of work with that. So if you guys want to, if you ever want me to spend some time with you, I can talk to you about that, about CCAP programs and Head Start and all the access there. So my background was childcare and youth programming. So anyways, happy to be here. Thanks, Jessica. Can't wait to connect and get to know you guys and actually see you guys in person and not just in these little squares that we live in.
Yeah, you just volunteered yourself for quite a bit of work there, Sadia. So thank you.
Yeah, I know. I'll see you soon. I think I'm coming to your ward meetings, I think, in this next upcoming month. So I'll be coming to yours and getting to know you guys.
All right, great.
So thank you.
And then Councilmember Murillo, we have one other introduction, so I'll turn it over to Alicia.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. We actually have Sarah Carroll online as well. Sarah is our new housing development supervisor, and she will be working a lot on all of the community development investment rounds and just working and supporting the development of affordable housing units in our community. This is one of the new positions that we have created. Actually, Bianca Lopez is online too, and she's our housing development officer. So if they could both introduce themselves, that'd be great.
Sorry. Hi, I am Sarah Carroll, and I am the new Housing Development Supervisor, as Alicia said. I am here from Texas. I have been working in CDBG and home and the consolidated plan grants for 9 years, and have a lot of different experience with development and rehab and program. Lots of different programs. I'm familiar with childcare as well, but my role here is going to be housing development. So I'm looking forward to working in that here in Colorado.
Hi, I'm Bianca Lopez. I'm the new Housing and Community Development Officer. I have combined 6 years of property management, regional property management, PSH development. I previously worked with Mental Health Center of Denver on their Sanderson PSH project. So I'm excited to be here and work with Sarah and Alicia and Jessica with building our affordable units in the city of Aurora.
Alrighty, well, Jessica, thanks for the for calling that out. It's really good to meet all three of you. I hope we get to connect more in the future. And yeah, if you are able to join town halls, we'd love to connect with you there as well. And welcome to the team. All right, I think on that note, we are good to adjourn. So thanks everyone for your time, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Thanks,
day.
Phil.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.